I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and for most of my marriage to Emily, I thought we had a pretty good thing going. We met in college, hit it off fast, and after a couple of years we got married. She was always a bit bitchy, quick to lie, and a master at hiding what she didn't want me to see, but I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. From the outside, everything seemed normal. We had a nice house, good jobs, and I really believed we were happy. But something changed over the last few months. Emily became more distant, secretive even. She started dressing differently, more provocative, more flirtatious. I'd catch her looking at her phone a lot more, sneaking around, and she'd get defensive if I asked about it. She'd brush me off, accuse me of being paranoid, or tell me I was overreacting. But I could see the lie in her eyes, the way she'd flinch if I looked at her phone too long. It all started with little things. Missing phone calls she claimed she didn't hear, coming home late from meetings she said were work-related, or so I thought, but I was stupid. I didn't want to believe she was cheating. I told myself it was just my imagination, that maybe I was just paranoid because I felt insecure lately. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, the gut feeling that you ignore until it's too late. One day I came home earlier than usual. I thought I'd surprise her with dinner. I walked in and immediately sensed something was off. The house was eerily quiet. Usually she'd be in the living room watching TV or on her laptop, but it was dead silent. I called her name, nothing. Then I checked her computer. I didn't mean to be intrusive, but I just had to see, and what I found made me freeze. There were dozens of messages from my best friend Ryan. They weren't just friendly, they were intimate, flirtatious even. I saw her talking about how she felt alive when she was with him, how she loved the rush. And worse, there were plans. They were planning to run away together. Ryan had asked her to meet up at some hotel downtown, and she was pretty much saying yes. The texts were full of promises of a new life, of running away from all the bullshit, my bullshit, her bullshit, whatever she thought she was escaping from. I stared at the screen, feeling my stomach drop out. My wife, the woman I trusted, was planning to leave me for my best friend. The guy I'd known since college, the guy I'd trusted with everything. I couldn't breathe. I didn't scream, I didn't break down right away. I just stared at the screen, feeling my world collapse around me. It was like my entire life was a lie, a carefully constructed illusion that had just shattered into pieces. That night I didn't sleep. I just sat there staring at the wall, trying to process what I'd just discovered. How long had they been doing this? How long had Emily been lying to me? And why? I kept asking myself over and over, what the hell did I do wrong? Did I miss the signs? Was I just blind? Or was she always a bitchy liar hiding a whole other life from me? The worst part was knowing that she had lied to me so convincingly, so effortlessly. She's always been good. At that, the kind of woman who can make you believe anything. She's pretty, confident, with a sharp tongue and a sharp mind. She's manipulative, too. I remember her saying the most hurtful things just to get her way, always blaming me for everything that went wrong. But now I saw the truth. She'd been playing me, using me, maybe even despising me all along. And Ryan, I used to trust him. We'd been friends for years. And now I saw that he was just as bad, or worse. Part of me wanted to confront her right then and there, to drag her out of bed and demand answers. But I knew deep down I wasn't ready yet. I needed to think. I needed a plan. I felt angry, betrayed, humiliated, like I'd been played for a fool. The worst part was knowing it was going to get messier before it got better. That was just the beginning. The next morning I woke up with a pounding headache and that sick feeling in my stomach that wouldn't go away. I had to face her. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I didn't want to be that guy who ignored the signs, who let it slide until it was too late. I got up early, made some coffee, and waited for her to wake up. When Emily finally shuffled into the kitchen, she looked tired, a little too casual, like she didn't have a care in the world. Maybe she thought she was safe, that she'd gotten away with everything, but I wasn't going to let her. I sat her down at the table, kept my voice steady but cold. "Emily," I said, "we need to talk about last night, about everything." Her eyes flickered with that bitchy smirk she always used when she thought she was in control. "What are you talking about, Jake? I don't know what you mean." I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages. Her face went pale for a second and then she started to lie. "Oh, that's nothing." Ryan and I are just friends. You're overreacting. You always jump to conclusions." She waved her hand dismissively. "You're just paranoid because you don't pay enough attention to me. Maybe I should start hiding things more, huh?" But I wasn't buying it. I felt my blood boil. "You've been meeting with Ryan for months, Emily. Planning to run away with him, that's what I saw. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't know what's going on?" She rolled her eyes, scoffing. "Oh, come on, you're being dramatic. Ryan's just a friend. We talk, that's all. We're not planning to run away. You're just jealous and insecure. That's why you're making all this up." Her voice was sharp, defensive, and her words stung worse than anything else. I could see the anger in her eyes, the way she was trying to spin it, to gaslight me into doubting what I had seen. But I wasn't going to let her. I told her I'd seen enough, that I knew she was lying. I told her I was tired of her bullshit, tired of her hiding things, tired of being played for a fool. That's when she got even more bitchy, raising her voice, saying I didn't trust her, that I was crazy, that I needed help. The whole thing escalated fast. She stormed out of the kitchen, yelling that I was a jealous, insecure idiot, and she didn't have to prove anything to me. That she was tired of lying, tired of pretending everything was fine. I wanted to scream, to shake her and demand she tell the truth, but I just sat there, shaking, feeling like my entire world was falling apart. After she left, I stayed up all night thinking about what to do. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. The betrayal ran too deep. I felt humiliated, angry, lost. My mind kept circling back to that moment, the moment I found out she'd been sleeping with my best friend. My best friend, someone I trusted, someone I confided in. And now I had to face the fact that they were planning to leave together, maybe even run away. I started to think about revenge. Not just ending it all, but making sure she paid for what she did. I wanted her to feel the same pain I'd felt when I saw those messages. I wanted her to know I wasn't a fool, that I could fight back. For hours I plotted, trying to figure out how to make her regret everything. It wasn't just about ending the marriage. It was about sending a message. About showing her she couldn't screw me over and get away with it. But I knew I had to be careful. I couldn't just blow everything up without a plan. I had to gather evidence, figure out what she was really up to, what her endgame was. She always had a way of twisting things, making herself the victim, so I needed proof if I was going to do anything. I decided I'd follow her, see where she went, who she met, what she was planning. I couldn't trust her, not anymore. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that this betrayal was just the tip of the iceberg. The woman I loved, the woman I married, was nothing like I thought she was. She was a liar, a manipulator, and apparently a cheat. And Ryan, he was just as bad. I felt sick that I'd ever trusted either of them. I knew I had to do something, something to set things straight, or at least make her regret her choices. The next step was clear. I was going to catch her in the act, expose her, and take control of the situation. I had enough of being the victim. It was time to be the one who fought back. And I wasn't going to let her get away with this without a fight. Over the next few days, I started watching her more closely. I didn't want to make it obvious, but I needed to know where she was going, who she was talking to, what her plans really were. I installed a tracking app on her phone, something I'd never thought I'd do, but desperation makes you do crazy things. Every time she left the house, I followed her on my own, keeping a safe distance but close enough to see what she was up to. It didn't take long. One afternoon, I saw her slip out of the house with her purse, her coat, and a strange glint in her eye. I followed her to that hotel downtown, exactly where those messages had said she'd meet Ryan. I parked a few blocks away and watched her go inside. My stomach dropped again. She was really doing it. She was planning to run away with my best friend, the woman I'd trusted with my life, and that bastard Ryan who I'd known since college. I stayed hidden in my car for a while, trying to figure out what to do. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and a strange sense of clarity. I'd come so close to losing everything I thought was real. I had to act fast, but I also needed to be smart. Confronting her right there in the middle of her plans could blow everything up in ways I wasn't ready for. So I decided to wait until she left, then go inside and get more evidence. I needed proof of what they were doing, proof that I could use if I decided to confront her publicly. When she finally came out of the hotel looking giddy, I knew I had what I needed. I followed her back home, and that's when I started to plan my next move. I wasn't just going to confront her with accusations. No, I had to do this carefully. I thought about hiring a private investigator, but honestly, I wasn't sure I could trust anyone else with this. Instead, I decided I'd be the one to gather everything I needed to catch her in the act if she slipped up again. That night I stayed awake, going over everything in my mind. The betrayal burned hotter than ever. I felt sick knowing my wife, the woman I married, was planning to leave me, and worse, that she'd been lying to me all along. I felt like a damn fool. How could I have missed all the signs? How could I have been so blind? And Ryan, my best friend, was just as much the villain in this as Emily was. I knew I had a choice. I could either let her do this, walk away, and pretend it didn't happen, or I could fight. I was never one to back down from a fight, especially not when it involved my life, my marriage, and my dignity. I decided that no matter what, I wasn't going to let her get away with this scam. I'd make her see that her deception had consequences. I'd make Ryan regret ever crossing that line. The only thing I wasn't sure about was how to start the confrontation. Part of me wanted to burst into the house, call her out in front of her friends, make her admit everything. But I knew better than that. I had to be smart. I had to catch her in the act again, get her on tape, if possible, and then decide how to handle the fallout. Because once I pulled that trigger, there was no going back. Honestly, I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I finally knew the truth, and dread because I knew that my life was about to change forever. I'd built a future with her, believed in us, and now it looked like everything was crashing down. I couldn't tell if I was more angry at her or myself for not seeing it sooner. Either way, I knew I had to be ready for whatever came next. I kept telling myself I'd only do what I had to do, but deep down, I knew that what I was planning would change everything. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for that, but I was determined to find out. No matter how painful, I had to face the truth head on. I was done being blind. It was time to confront the monsters in my life, even if it meant tearing everything apart. The days that followed felt like walking on thin ice. I kept my eyes open constantly, waiting for another slip-up, another sign that she was planning. Leave. I started recording her when she thought I wasn't looking, hidden in the corner of the living room, phone in hand, capturing every sneaky move, every lie she tried to spin. I didn't want to rely only on her texts or her words. I needed undeniable proof that she was actively deceiving me. One evening she came home late again, smelling like perfume I didn't recognize. She was acting nervous, fidgety even. I played it cool, asked her how her day was, pretended I didn't know anything. But I watched her closely, and part of me hoped she'd slip up again just once so I could have her caught in the act. She went straight to the bathroom after dinner, leaving her phone on the kitchen table. I grabbed it without hesitation. Her messages and emails were filled with more lies, more plans. I saw her texting Ryan about the perfect escape, about how she'd finally gotten rid of me and how she couldn't wait to start fresh, just the two of them. I felt my blood boil. This was real. She was really about to leave me for my best friend. I kept myself composed, but inside I was furious. I kept the phone hidden, and that night I stayed up, going over every detail, every message, every lie. I knew I had to act fast. I started researching how to confront her without tipping her off. I didn't want her to run before I could catch her in the act. I had to be ready for anything. The next day I decided I'd follow her again, see if she made any moves. Sure enough, she left the house around lunchtime, looking suspiciously casual. I followed her from a distance, watching her meet Ryan at that same hotel. I stayed in my car, heart pounding, trying to figure out my next move. I knew I couldn't just barge in and accuse her, not yet. I needed more proof, something airtight. I wanted her to realize I knew everything. While parked outside, I noticed her talking intensely with Ryan, laughing at something, probably a plan or a joke to make her feel better about betraying me. I felt sick. I knew she thought she was pulling this off smoothly, but I was already planning how I'd surprise her. The thought of her running away with him, leaving me behind, made me feel like I was losing my mind. Then the most unexpected thing happened. I saw her slip something into her purse, something small but important. I couldn't see exactly what it was, but I knew it was evidence I needed. I decided I'd wait until she left, then go inside and retrieve it. That was the last piece of the puzzle, the thing that would turn everything around. When she finally came back to the car, smiling to herself, I pulled out of the shadows. My hands were shaking, but I kept my cool. I followed her home again, knowing I now had a clear plan. I'd confront her face to face with all the evidence in hand. No more hiding, no more lies. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. That night, I sat in my chair, watching her through the window. I knew she was planning her escape, and for the first time I felt a strange mix of anger and calm. I'd never been the type to give up, and I wasn't about to start now. Whatever came next, I was ready for it. Because I knew the truth, and the truth was that I was done being manipulated. I was done being blind to her lies. In my mind, I was already preparing for the showdown. I knew once I confronted her, everything would change. I didn't know what she'd say, what Ryan would say, or how it would all end. But I knew I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I had to take control, even if it meant breaking everything apart. I was ready to face whatever storm was coming because I was done being the fool. That evening, I finally decided it was time. I couldn't keep waiting around, pretending everything was fine while her plans were unfolding behind my back. I sat quietly in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but my mind was racing. I knew she'd come home soon, and when she did, I would confront her. I had the evidence, those messages, the recordings, everything I needed to make her admit what she'd been up to. When she finally walked in, she looked smug, like she was already one step ahead, like she thought she had everything under control. That's what made it so easy for me to be calm. I just looked at her and said, "Emily, we need to talk. Sit down." She hesitated for a second, then sat across from me, crossing her arms like she was ready for a fight. I took out my phone, the one I'd hidden all along, and played the recordings I had made of her talking to Ryan. Her eyes widened in shock, then quickly fluttered into that bitchy mask she always wore. "What is this? You've been spying on me," she snapped, trying to act innocent but failing miserably. "Not just spying," I said coldly. "I found your messages. I know about the plans. You and Ryan are planning to leave me, run away together, aren't you?" I could see her trying to deny it, squirming in her seat, but I wasn't done. I pulled out the pictures, the texts, the proof of her deception. I pressed play on the recording of her saying she'd finally got rid of me for good, that she'd be free to start her new life with Ryan. Her face turned a shade whiter, and for a moment she looked genuinely caught. But then her eyes flashed with that nasty spark she always had. She started spouting lies, saying I'd misinterpreted everything, that I was jealous, insecure, and just paranoid. She insisted she never wanted to leave, that she was just talking to Ryan about work stuff, about plans we'd made years ago that I'd forgotten. I didn't believe her. I asked her straight out, who was the woman in the hotel? Who was she meeting? She tried to deny everything, but I'd seen enough. I told her I knew she'd been lying from the start, that I'd been patient, but I wasn't going to be played anymore. I told her I was done with her bullshit, that I wanted the truth, no more lies. That's when she got defensive, started yelling, calling me crazy and obsessive. She claimed I was ruining everything, that I was ruining her life. She called me controlling, insecure, the worst husband she'd ever had. But inside, I knew it was just her desperation showing. She was losing control, just like I knew she would. I felt a strange mixture of fury and heartbreak. I'd loved her once, believed in us once, but now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative liar who never cared about me. All those years I tried to fix things, to be the good guy, all for nothing. My mind kept circling back to Ryan, how he'd betrayed me too, my best friend. Someone I'd trusted with everything, now just a part of her scheme to leave me behind. In that moment I realized I had a choice. I could break everything apart, call a lawyer, kick her out, or I could do something else. Something brutal, but I knew I wanted her to feel exactly what I felt, betrayed, humiliated, and utterly powerless. I knew I'd have to be strategic about it, but I'd start by making her face the consequences of her actions. I wasn't going to let her walk out the door without paying a price. As she stormed out of the room, still yelling, I sat there, staring at the evidence I'd collected. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. The aftermath would be messy, painful even, but I was done being the fool. I was done being the guy who got played. From this point on, I was taking back control, no matter what it took, and I'd make sure she knew that she couldn't lie her way out of the truth. In the days that followed, I knew I had to act quickly. I wasn't going to let her slip away after all the lies, after all the betrayal. I started making arrangements, getting a lawyer, gathering more evidence, and planning how to confront her in a way that would leave no room for her to spin her usual lies. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't a fool anymore, that I'd seen through her every trick. She tried to act innocent, to deny everything, but I had the proof. The recordings, the texts, the little things I'd observed, the way she'd been sneaking around, the secret meetings, her false pretenses. When I finally sat her down for the last time, I didn't hold back. I laid everything out on the table, told her I knew everything, that I was done being manipulated, that I refused to be her fool anymore. Her face twisted into fury, then tears, then rage, but she knew she was cornered. She tried to throw me off, to make me doubt myself. She said I was jealous, crazy, paranoid. She called me controlling, insecure, anything, to shift the blame away from her. But I wasn't buying her act anymore. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her she'd lost her last chance, that her lies had finally caught up with her. I told her I was filing for divorce, that she could run with Ryan if she wanted, but I wouldn't be part of it anymore. It was a brutal confrontation, but one I knew I had to do. I felt a strange sense of relief, like I was finally freeing myself from a nightmare I'd been living in for far too long. I realized that sometimes the only way to move forward is to burn everything to the ground first, to face the truth head-on, no matter how painful. I knew there would be consequences. There always are with betrayals like this. In the aftermath, she left the house, furious and crying, trying to manipulate the situation. But I stood firm. I called my lawyer, filed the papers, and made sure everything was documented. I knew she'd try to spin it, try to turn people against me, but I didn't care. I'd lost my wife, yes, but I gained clarity. I learned that trust is fragile, that the person you think you know can sometimes be a stranger hiding behind a mask of lies. Looking back, I realize now that I was blind for too long. I kept making excuses, convincing myself I was overreacting. But I was just afraid to face the truth. Now I see everything clearly. I see how she manipulated, lied, and betrayed me, how she used my trust to run away with my best friend. And I have to admit, it hurts. It hurts like hell to lose someone you loved, especially when you find out they never really loved you back. But I also feel free. Free from the lies, the pain, and the deception. I know I'll heal eventually. I'll rebuild my life, alone if I have to. Because I learned a harsh lesson: never ignore the signs. Never turn a blind eye to the little things that don't sit right. Trust must be earned, and if it's broken, it's almost impossible to fix. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, trust me, it hurts like hell, but you're stronger than you think. Don't let someone else's betrayal define you. Pick up the pieces, move on, and find your peace. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with the truth, and the truth always comes out in the end.